is Leon and the Spitting Image, Chapter 20, entitled A Problem and a Solution. It was at pickup, while everyone was standing on the school steps, that Leon and Lily Matisse updated PW about the doll's malfunction. "I'm getting nothing," said Leon. "No response at all?" asked PW. "None," Lily Matisse confirmed. "Everything was working fine," said Leon. "Then about 5 minutes after the hag sent you inside, whammo." "Maybe it's a range issue," PW suggested. "How far away was the hag when the power died?" "Probably around 10 feet, said Leon. 15 tops, Lily Matisse said. "So that's not the problem," PW concluded. "What about the sight line?" "The sight line was fine," said Leon. "I had a clear shot." "We'll find a solution," said Lily Matisse, doing her best to sound hopeful. Leon scoffed. "A solution? How? By waving some magic wand?" He reached into his pouch and retrieved the masterpiece. "This was the solution. This was the magic wand. And now the magic wand is broken." "Hey, don't get all snippy," said Lily Matisse. "I'm just saying there's got to be a solution of some kind." "Have you checked the doll thoroughly?" PW asked. "Maybe some of the stitching got loose." Leon lifted up the arms and inspected the seams. He did the same with the legs. Then he scanned the cape and dress, the boots and the wig. There were no loose threads. Nothing seemed out of place. In fact, the masterpiece was looking pretty good. The spit stain was beginning to fade. "Well, that's something," he told himself. "At least I'll be able to submit the doll for a final inspection." Then all of a sudden he cried out, "Hey, wait a minute, that's it!" "What's it?" said PW. "What Lily Matisse just said," Leon answered. Lily Matisse gave him a puzzled look. "What did I say?" "You said I needed a solution." "Well, duh," said PW. "Don't you get it?" Leon exclaimed. "The solution is the solution." "What are you babbling about?" said Lily Matisse. "I'm babbling about the spit stain." "What about it?" said Lily Matisse, mildly disgusted. "Feel it," said Leon, thrusting the doll toward her. She recoiled. "No way, Jose." Leon turned to PW. "Feel it," he begged. PW reluctantly reached over and prodded the spot. "It's dry. So what?" "Don't you see?" said Leon. "That's why I lost power. It's just like a TV remote. The masterpiece needs recharging. Only instead of a couple of replacement batteries, it uses..." He waited for the light bulbs to go on in his friend's head. When they didn't, he gave the stained stomach a dramatic tap. "Teacher spit!" PW yelled at last. Antoinette Breed, who was waiting for her limousine, heard the outburst. She turned and stared. PW lowered his voice to an exuberant whisper. "Leon, you're a total absolute genius. All we have to do is snag some of the coach's spit and we'll be all set." "Gross," said Lily Matisse. "There's no way I'm going anywhere near that goop. I like the coach and all, but that's, well, forget it." "Come on," urged PW. "It'll be cool. We'll be like those elite special ops forces that get dropped behind enemy lines." "Let's not get that carried away," said Leon. "We sneak into the gym. We take some spit. We leave. It's not Mission Impossible." "Good," said Lily Matisse. "If it's that easy, then you guys won't need me." "You can't bail on us now," said Leon. "We're a team." "How about being a lookout?" PW suggested. "Would I have to get near it?" Lily Matisse asked. "Of course not," Leon said reassuringly. Lily Matisse mulled over the proposal and agreed to be part of the team, just as Napoleon pulled up in front of the school. They struck at noon the very next day, while Coach Kasparitis was at lunch. Lily Matisse and PW posted themselves at the double doors of the gymnasium entrance, while Leon slunk inside. He padded across the wooden floor, scanning the bleachers. A door hinge creaked. Leon froze. Limburger, Egghead, Oreo, Noogie, do you copy? Over. Leon whipped around and spotted PW talking into his fancy wristwatch. Confirm your position. Over. Knock it off, said Leon. Just guard the door and holler if you see someone coming. That's a Roger, said PW. Do me a favor, Leon said. Skip the spy stuff. Do you copy? Oh, all right, said PW. Leon tiptoed into the coach's office and peered about. The place was a sty. There was sports equipment scattered everywhere. A catcher's chest protector, a sack of rhinos, dirty socks, a leather pommel horse. Leon focused his search on the desk, which was piled high with catalogs, late slips, whistles, and baseball memorabilia. After a bit of scrounging, he located the pickle jar underneath an ancient pitcher's mitt. He set to work, removing an empty juice bottle from inside his shirt and placing it alongside the pickle jar. Before performing the actual transfer, he made a tiny pencil mark on the side of the jar, at the level of the spit. Once that was done, Leon unscrewed the jar and poured a small amount of the thick brown liquid into the juice bottle. He then added a little more, figuring it made sense to take extra, just in case. Cupping the partially drained pickle jar with both hands, Leon moved toward the water fountain at the opposite side of the gym, like an explosives expert handling nitroglycerin. Dring! The fourth period bell so startled him that he almost jumped out of his skin. Spit sloshed about inside the pickle jar. Should have sealed it, Leon told himself angrily. He got lucky, however. Nothing spilled. As Leon was refilling the jar at the water fountain, the door hinge creaked again. PW stuck his head into the gym. Spitter in view! Repeat, spitter in view. Estimated time of arrival, 1 minute. Leon started to run to the office, but soon realized he had to slow down. With the jar almost filled to the brim, the risk of spilling spit on the floor was even greater than before. By the time he set the pickle jar down on the coach's desk, he was a nervous wreck. In fact, Leon was so discombobulated that he covered the juice bottle with the baseball mitt and shoved the pickle jar under his shirt instead of the other way around. He was halfway out the door before he realized the mix-up, and only corrected it seconds before the coach entered the office. Looking for me, champ? Yes, Leon stuttered. The coach gave him a sideways glance. You okay? Fine. The coach unzipped his tracksuit and sat down behind his desk. What can I do you for? Just came by to, Leon racked his brains for a reason to justify his presence, to say thanks for saving my masterpiece. Don't mention it, kiddo. Like I told you, it's major league work. The coach pointed at the bulge under Leon's shirt. Have you shown that to Miss Hagmeyer yet? Leon nearly had a heart attack until he realized that the coach was mistaking the juice bottle for his masterpiece. No, not yet, he stammered. Well, when you do, I'm betting that doll of yours will really move her, said the coach. Move her? Leon gave him a funny look. I hope so. Coach Kasperitis grabbed the pickle jar from underneath his mitt. Leon suddenly noticed something troubling. The spit and the water in the jar hadn't blended. In fact, the liquids had formed two distinct layers, like oil and vinegar. Leon held his breath and listened intently as the coach turned away to satisfy an urge. He heard the distinct hollow sound of the metal jar lid rubbing against the glass, followed by an unmistakable. If the coach was going to notice anything fishy, it would be right now, Leon told himself, at the very moment the saliva was hitting the water. It felt like an hour had passed before Leon registered the second scrape of metal on the glass. He sighed deeply when he realized his spit theft had escaped detection. The next phase of the restaining process took place at the maple tree during recess. Leon proudly showed off the bottle to his friends. "Gross," said Lily Matisse. "Excellent," said PW. "This can't fail. Dried out teacher spit was definitely the problem. I did some research. The Crusaders moistened wounds with saliva to make them heal faster." "Well, I did some research too," said Lily Matisse. "Spitting images sometimes need a magic spell to work. I made one up just in case." "Great," said Leon. "You can say it after we've applied the spit." "Can we get going?" PW said impatiently. And Leon nodded and asked Lily Matisse if she'd remembered to bring the drop cloth. "Of course," she answered, producing a scrap of purple paisley left over from her falcon animile. Leon tapped the ground with his sneaker. "Set it down here," he said. As Lily Matisse smoothed out the drop cloth, Leon turned to PW. "Did you find an applicator?" he said. "That's a Roger," said PW. "What'd I say about the dumb lingo?" said Leon. "Fine," PW grumbled. "Okay then," said Leon. "Let's see if the solution is the solution to our problem." He kneeled next to the drop cloth and placed the juice bottle on top. He then removed the doll from the pouch and gently rested it on its back. "Anyone snooping?" he asked. "That's a PW caught himself. "You're fine," he said blandly. Leon reached for the bottle, giving it a vigorous shake before unscrewing the lid. He placed the lid next to the doll. "Applicator," he said decisively, holding out his hand. PW slapped the requested instrument into Leon's palm. "A pencil?" said Lily Matisse. "Even a straw would have been better than that." "Couldn't find any clean straws, okay?" said PW defensively. "And I didn't want to use a germy one from the trash. There's no telling what a milk molecule could do." "And you think that's safer?" said Lily Matisse. "Newsflash, PW, pencils have germs too." "Guys," said Leon, shooting them both looks. He gingerly dipped the eraser of the applicator into the bottle and dabbed some spit on the spot of the original stain. "All done?" said PW eagerly. "I think so," Leon answered. "What about my incantation?" said Lily Matisse. "Oops, sorry. Go ahead." Lily Matisse paused for a moment. "Drab, dribble, pour. Make Miss Hagmire sore." "Not bad," said Leon. "Thanks," said Lily Matisse. PW abruptly resealed the bottle. "Can we hurry up?" he said. "I'm dying to see Lumpkin's face when the hag crams a pair of pantyhose over his head." "That's not going to happen," said Lily Matisse. "Birdwhistle caught him trying to sneak out of school. He's bird-caged." "All day?" asked PW. "No, but every single recess until carnival," said Lily Matisse. "Guess we'll just have to concentrate on the hag," said Leon, not sounding all that upset. As they headed toward the recessed doorway to conduct further tests, PW couldn't resist whispering into his wristwatch. "Target in view. Repeat, target in view." "Knock it off," Leon said. He took a position in the doorway. "Right," he said, sneaking a peek at the teacher's bench. Miss Hagmire was, as usual, sitting alone. Less usual, however, was the object she had in her bony hands. Leon said, "Lily Matisse, take a look and tell me if that's what I think it is." Lily Matisse peered around the corner. "It is! It's the black SOV binder that my mom told me about." Leon reached for his doll. "I'm going to make her bring it to us. Maybe we'll finally find out who she's selling our animals to." He leaned forward and worked the legs to pull Miss Hagmire toward them. But the doll's eyes didn't sparkle, and its body didn't warm up, nor did any telltale changes take place at the teacher's bench. Lily Matisse whispered, "What's wrong?" "Beats me," Leon said. "It should have worked. I dabbed the same place Lumpkin did." A frustrated silence filled the doorway. "Maybe that's the problem," PW said all of a sudden. "You dabbed. Lumpkin poured." So, said Leon. So, maybe the spit works like yeast, said Lily Matisse. Right, PW continued. Not enough and your cake won't rise. We've got to add more spit. The second time around, Leon didn't bother with the applicator or the drop cloth or the incantations. He pulled out the juice bottle right where he was standing, unscrewed the lid, and gave his doll's midsection a good, thorough soaking.